Om Shri Sairam. We start today's session with three Omkars.
Om Shri Sai Ram, offering our loving pranams at the lotus feet of our beloved Mother Sai. Let's begin our today's evening Samarpan session. Today, it's my privilege to introduce you to one of our senior alumni, Dr. Vineet Basotia. Just to give a brief background of Dr. Vineet, he joined Swami's Institute at Brindavan campus in the year 1994. He completed his master's in business administration in the year 1999 and followed on to complete his PhD under Swami's guidance. He was conferred the doctorate in PhD in corporate governance and strategy in the year 2004. Dr. Vineet, or Vineet, we fondly call him, Swami used to call him fondly Assam boy. He had privilege of traveling with Swami to Kodaikanal on couple of occasions. Currently, Dr. Vineet is a global head of data analytics at Philips Healthcare Systems. My memories and Jay Shankar as well as Siddharth's memories with Dr. Vineet are pretty old because it's at that time in 1997 when we entered the portals of Brindavan campus. It was Brother Vineet who's welcomed us to the hostel and made us comfortable during our stay over the next couple of years. So let's invite Dr. Vineet to address us for our today's session. Over to you, Vineet.
Sairam everyone, and my humble pranams at Bhagwan's lotus feet. As you can imagine, opportunity like this is always very, very humbling, and it puts you in a reflective mode. It makes you go back on your journey. Speaking about experiences with Swami, our interactions with Swami, and everything which we have picked up as precious gems and jewels in our journey with Swami is always a pleasure. However, whenever you're in a setting where there are people with rich experience and people who have, embraced his teachings and service, you always feel that where do we start, right? How do I start? Everyone's journey is very unique. Everyone has a connection which is very, very unique. I thought this morning when I was waking up and I got this opportunities to speak. Many a times I have spoken, but I haven't been like a person who is always in front of the podium. In fact, I remember the first time I spoke in public was in Kodaikanal, and I was very young then. I was in my first year MBA, and Bhagwan asked me to speak in Kodaikanal, and I was literally shaking and shuddering. And then he gave me the confidence that, see, when you speak from your heart, all the right words, the right thoughts would converge and they will come together and make a meaningful story. And I have always carried that message throughout in my heart as I reflect and I speak. Today, this morning, I was thinking that how do I tell this vast ocean of, experiences which have touched my heart, moments which have mattered in really relevant times in my life, teachings which I have carried through, and what I am today. How did it all happen, right? It's difficult to knit a story right away, but the way I took it is that there are some things Bhagwan did in our lives which are so fundamental, so pertinent, and in today's terminology, we could say groundbreaking or something which really shakes you up. So maybe I will dwell on one or two such things which in my life was really groundbreaking, and Bhagwan intervened in a way that really changed the course of how I would have thought my life will proceed. But beyond those fundamental things, and I'll dwell on few of those, there are many, many moments with Swami, which we all had, which were very sweet moments. They are like the mother touching your hand, like a mother caring for you, almost coming down to a very, very careful embrace, which Swami as a mother, showered on us students. And I'll probably pick up some of those nuggets, and I'll also try to connect the dots there. But the most important thing is that how does it all come together as your life progresses, and your career, your family, and everything takes steps forward. The assurances which Bhagwan gave us through his teachings, through his personal interactions, sometimes through a glance, sometimes through small words. I will also come to that. And, in the institute, when it was always written that the end of education is character, as young students, it was difficult to comprehend the power of those words then. But as we grow in our lives, as we grow in our careers, we know that what character it actually was that Bhagwan embedded in us, and what was it that he really gifted us. There are multitudes of gift, but I think the biggest gift which any student ever got in the portals of Bhagwan was that element of character, which I think we all take along. So those are few initial thoughts, and as I just mentioned, then maybe let me talk about something which was, in my view, in my life, a very ground breaking change. And that incident, I love to narrate because it kind of reflects that how Swami really nurtured, molded, sometimes even tweaked and re kind of focused students' lives, right? I think it was the year 1999. I had finished my MBA. And in those days, when a batch finishes their MBA, everybody would try to go to Bhagwan and then take guidance that what do they do next, or ask his blessings, because everybody has planned something in their life and career. My situation at that point was that I came from a very basic middle class family. My father had a good job in Assam. He used to work there, but the situation in Assam in those days was very tough, to the extent that my father's job was under trouble, and he was planning to. The company had closed down where he was working, and it had all kind of timed in such a way that I, his only son, had finished his MBA. So my father, my mother, and my full family were with the hope that now he's going to start earning, and maybe they can be much, much more satisfied with the fact that they have to take care of my sister's weddings and take care of the family. But since his job was probably not going to continue, there was a lot of stress in the family. So I had come down to Chennai first, applied for some jobs, and I know Bhagwan had come to Brindavan, and our batch, many of us had gathered, saying that, hey, let's go, because these are the last few weeks as a batch where we can sit in the student block, because after that we'll become ex students and we'll be pushed a little behind. So we will probably not have that much of a vicinity or approachability. So we all were in Brindavan, and I was like, okay, the moment I get a chance, either in thrice session or at some point of time, I'm going to ask Bhagwan for blessings and go and start working. I had, there were people talking about jobs in different sectors, and I was trying my best. And that was my mindset with which I was spending those few days in Brindavan, thinking that these are my final days as a student of Swami's Institute. I had finished my MBA. Very, very surprisingly, and to the best of our, I mean, we were overjoyed one day when we heard that Bhagwan actually called our batch for a thrice session, but an exclusive thrice session where not everybody was invited. It's just the batch, which was the outgoing batch, was invited. So imagine our joy. We all had like really the joy of those kind of invites used to be you rush into try and like almost wait with this huge amount of happiness and joy in your heart. And I was overjoyed because I knew that if this is exclusive session, at some point I'll be able to just take Swami's blessings, and with his blessings, I'll start my corporate career. And when that day when I entered Trai, I had no clue that with what thought I will come out of Trai. And we went in, and Bhagwan spoke very lovingly to everyone, and to many of my batchmates, he gave personal direction and personal guidance. It must have been around 15 minutes into the session of tremendous love and tremendous care when Bhagwan at some point said, but he said, I'm planning to start a PhD program. Our institute used to have a lot of PhD scholars, and last many years that that stream has gone down. So from this batch, I'm planning to start a new PhD program, and I have selected 5 students. So I was also amazed, and everybody was very happy that Swami had selected 5 students. And we all started, and we knew that there were, some of our batchmates who really wanted to be staying with Swami. And what can be better than this, that get the opportunity to not only stay with Swami, but be in the hostel, be with other students and your teachers, and start a PhD. You're almost, so we were overjoyed, and I was also overjoyed. And Swami started calling out some of the brothers, my batchmates. Some of them, in fact, today are also teachers in Puttaparthi, and one of them is the warden, Niranjan, Deepak Anand, and a couple more. The last name which Swami called, I think shook everyone around, and he said, "Where is Assam boy?" Now, till that moment, if you ask me, I probably would not even have known what is the full form of a PhD. I know that it's obviously a great thing to do in a way, but I was like, oh, did Swami call me? And I was amazed. Like, he called me, and I went up front. I wasn't even sitting like near Swami. I was sitting a little behind, and I went up, and Swami said, "Assam boy, tum bhi PhD karo." And it struck to me that, okay, this is not what I had come to take blessings from, but with all his love and grace, the way he said, I just joined my hand and I just bowed down, and he take Pad Namaskar. So I took Pad Namaskar. But then, in few minutes, it started going in my mind that this is going to be um, a real big change in my life if I'm going to do PhD. And I had never ever thought of it, never comprehended what it was, and never expected it. And as the human mind works, I started mulling over it, and I started thinking, okay, maybe I need to ask some clarity to Swami. And the first thought which came in my mind is that, well, I'm going for a corporate job because I need to earn money. My family needs my help. They need my financial help. So if I'm going to do PhD, how I'm going to financially help my family? So the first courage I got after some time after Swami had spoken is, by then I had come very close to Swami, and I was taking his Pad Namaskar, and I got up and I said, Swami, क्या मैं job कर सकता है? So like, can I work? And I said that, Swami, मैं आपका आश्रम में कहीं पे job कर सकता है? And Swami said, job? नहीं, तुम PhD करो. PhD करने से, बहुत अच्छा है, और पढ़ाई होगा, you will grow. And he said, just PhD करो. So seeing his confidence that I should do PhD, obviously it was, you can't argue with God. And and your mind goes like, as such, when Bhagwan looks at you, you are a blank. It's like so much of power, so much of energy, and so much of love. And then you have your own karmas, you have your own thought process which is going in the back of your head, and you're like, how does this work, right? So again, I sat down and I started mulling over, and I said, okay, Swami said PhD, I have to do PhD. And it was a very, very emotional moment for me. And then that session overall was Swami just showering grace. He was blessing so many students. People were asking him questions, giving letters, and all that stuff. And then I'm like, okay, I have to do PhD. And then at some point the session got over. So Swami, I think, distributed Vibhuti to everyone. And then when Swami walks back in the other room, you can run from the main hall to the other side and try to catch his attention again if you're lucky, and say something else. So by then my normal student human mind took another turn, and I said, oh, I think I have not told Swami that my trouble, right, that my father's job is over. He's not going to be earning money. So maybe Swami doesn't know that my father has this problem. Because I didn't tell him that, I think out of his love and kindness, he's telling me to do PhD. And I wasn't the brightest student in my batch anyways. So I don't think I was like the enlightened or the academic guy who should do PhD. So I said, let me just go do one more shot. And I ran and I went from the other side of Trai. And when Bhagwan came in, this time I got up and I said, and he was it that day, it almost seemed like Swami's enjoying it. He knew I'm going to come back and put another argument or another aspect in front of him. And I looked at Swami and I said, Swami, father ka job mein trouble hai. Father retired. Uh, so I have to work. Swami said, retired? Kahan retired? Where is he? Then I said, Swami, Assam, he's in Guwahati. Then Swami said, nahin, nahin, he cannot retire. I will retire him. Now you can't, at that point, you can't say, and with a lot of assurance, with a direct look in my eyes, he said, I will retire him. After that, I had no argument. And as such, the interaction was so powerful that I knew that this is going to be the journey of my life. I have to show the interest in the PhD. And in fact, just before he went out, he said, PhD boys, tomorrow morning, you come and there is going to be some session. And then he also said, when I go to Puttaparthi, I'll take you all with me. So I came out of that session and my life had taken a full turn, a fundamental turn, which today, after 20, 25 years, I realized that if it would not have been that day and that session, today probably I would have been in a very, very different world, in a very, very different uh, dimension or something. I was from a family which, in fact, after my BCom, I remember many of my uncles and my family even saying that, hey, we don't even know if MBA is important because there are so many people doing business in family. Why don't you become a gems trader or something? So MBA itself was a push and a nudge. And then I was about to get into a journey of a PhD. And I came out of that. And then even the argument that my father's job is in trouble and he's going to retire had not worked. And Swami had given assurance that he's going to retire him. And I came out, and then all of us who were the select, I think most of them are very happy because they were really wanting to be with Bhagwan. They were seeking to do a PhD at that point. I obviously also wanted all the proximity and I thought it was very lovely, but I was in this conflict that what will happen to my family now, right? So came out those days to make a call home was a long standing in the STD booth, and somehow I managed to get to my parents that night. And when I told them that Swami had asked me to do PhD, uh, they literally broke down. I think they had not expected that I will not be earning money. And my father said, if this was to happen, you will have to take care of yourself because we have very less means and we need to take care of your sisters. So he said some words like that, but they're generally very, very devoted people, but it was too much for them to take at that life stage, right? So I came out of it. Next day, I think we got more interaction. I just started thinking in my mind that if Bhagwan has said this, that my father will be retired, I will just go with this faith, and this is the journey which I'm going to get along. So next day morning, I woke up. I was like, I have to just do what Swami says, and I'm going to do PhD. In fact, in few days, it so happened that Swami started talking about who would guide us, who would be our guide, what are the topics. He used to interact with us very often. We got to go to Puttaparthi from Vrindavan. We got a chance to stay in the ashram. We used to get many interactions with Swami. And Professor Radha Swami, who was one of the most esteemed professor this institute has ever had, was asked to be our guide. He took a lot of interest, almost like a father would, and he started guiding us. Obviously, in the back of my mind, there was this lingering thing that I could not probably step up to my family's expectations at that point. I will cut the long story a little short, but in the next few months, actually what happened in Guwahati in Assam, the company which had closed down where my father used to work got sold um, to another big business entity. And the last transaction, which my father was supposed to assist for that company and then pretty much wrap everything and come off or go after his payments are done, was to get that land and that building where he stayed and the whole. It was a transport company, so there were a lot of godowns and there was a lot of things. So that business being sold was his last job. Now, the people who bought that land, who bought that business, they had an aspiration to create a big automobile showroom there. And they were interacting with my father. On the last day, when those transactions were supposed to happen, one part of that land was the house where we used to stay. The gentleman who bought that business offered my father a job of a finance manager or account manager in his new company in the same house on the same land with another business entity. My father got a job where he then worked for another 12 years. So Swami's term that, hey, I will retire your father, was so precise that my mother, my father, they didn't even have to move out of the house. It was my father got the job in the same place, in the same place, same entity, and he actually had a job. So that tension that me doing a PhD will actually uh, be counterproductive for my family, that itself was a massive miracle which just happened as per Swami's word exactly. But the story doesn't end there, because it takes time for the human mind to like grasp some realities, right? uh, you know, uh, there was, as I was saying earlier, that my father had said that he will financially not be able to support me at that point. And he was very genuine because I think he had his own reasons. And I had my own pride. So at some point, I was like, okay, when you do a PhD, you will start earning a stipend. And I knew that with that stipend will probably carry me through for my stay in the hostel and all that stuff. But before you actually earn a stipend, there's a gap of 6 months. And I used to, again, to keep it short, I used to ration my monetary expenses every day. And I used to take care that I don't spend too much, or I sometimes would skip a breakfast, just go for a lunch so that I keep my monetary expenses in limit. One morning, Bhagwan saw that, so after the morning darshan, when Swami would call a group for interview, and then when Swami calls everybody for interview, most of the students who will be sitting on the portico would go to the South Indian canteen for breakfast. And I used to sometimes skip breakfast just because I wanted to be a little judicious with my financial expenses. Uh, so Swami's, I don't know what happened that day, the interviews, which would generally last like for 20 minutes or 25 minutes, suddenly the group which had gone in for interview, they came out in like 5 minutes. And I was the only student with maybe a few more sitting on the portico. And Swami came out and he said, Assam boy, come inside. So it was like a shock, like the door opened and I was like called inside. And when I went inside, he said, okay, so tum khana nahi khata hai? Uh, 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 do you know Swami knows everything? And he gave me some money in my hand and he said, I don't want to see you hungry. You have to go and eat well. And the power of those statements, the care with which it may have been a very short interaction. I just went in and something happened and then he sent me out, but he gave me a bundle of notes and he said that you should never go hungry. For the whole universe which he has to worry about, and for millions and millions of devotees, he has to think about. It caught his eye that this boy is sitting out here and he's not eating food. So those were the kind of interactions which really molded my life, which really took me um, to understand that what it is to feel his love. So not only does he put you on a path, he cares for you pretty much every step, uh, and holds your hand. There were times when our mind could get a little muffled, or we may be like, okay, what's happening? But there was always a meaning, a unique meaning in every interaction which he did with us, which today, as our life goes on, we understand that how powerful it was, how meaningful it was, right? um, in fact, just coming in the fold of Swami itself is the biggest miracle. I think, for all of us, whoever has had this knock on the door, and if they've got into Bhagwan's fold, that itself is, as many noble people have said, I think it's a chance in a million lives or something. So it's itself a big miracle. But to get those interactions, to get those meaningful connections, is so much more deeper. Um, there are other stories which I can go on, but I wanted to mention this one as some kind of a fundamental turn. It's interesting that how this later, in my career, as I got into different jobs, as I made progress in my corporate career, there are at least two instances, or in fact much more, where the PhD mattered a lot. Prior to working for Philips Healthcare, where I'm leading their global practice for analytics, at some point when I was working for GE Healthcare, there was a role which I had applied, which was a global head for a big unit, and I think the people who were competing for that role were very bright individuals from Harvard and Wharton and everything. And one of the unique reasons why the leadership team felt I could be probably the right person doing that role was just the education, the depth, the knowledge which I think that PhD bestowed on me. So when it was first told by Swami that you do this, I wasn't even sure, but I see that it kind of became a very critical backbone of everything which then happened in my life. Right now, apart from these instances, I think what I most cherish are those small interactions, those small moments where Bhagwan would just come and do something which you would feel even today, in times when I close my eyes and I think about the memories which come up, are those small interaction which was so sweet, which was so loving. He would care about nuances which nobody can think about. One incident which I often mention whenever I speak, and I think is worth repeating, is a very uh, unique thing which really caught my attention in those days. At some point in my MBA days, I was gaining a lot of weight. So I wasn't one of those health conscious students who would be like going to the gym or doing gymnastics and all that. So that I had a tendency to gain weight, and I would obviously not like that I'm looking very fat. And sometimes in the hostel somebody may tease you that Arey, Vineet, mota ho gaya, and all that. So I realized that, hey, this is not good. I'm gaining a lot of weight. So I thought the best way to probably control this weight gain is I start dieting. So in hostel, I think the routine for dinner used to be two chapatis and a lot of curries, and there used to be always rice. And in my mind, I thought that I should probably cut the rice. I should cut my chapatis. I'll have just one chapati and maybe very, very little some sabji or grains, and then just the buttermilk. So I started this new routine in my life where I would start dieting during my dinner time. But it wasn't easy because at a young age, when you take this drastic dieting measures, you feel very hungry. And then towards the later part of the night, I would have milk and I'll try to look at some snacks. But then I became stronger and stronger. I'm like, I have to do this dieting. But just as a normal, so I was looking forward to seeing the results. So I was looking forward to becoming thinner or maybe losing weight. So I would often think that, hey, after 1 week went, 2 weeks went, I'm like, am I getting slimmer or not? Now nobody gave me any compliments. So I was like, maybe this is not working. And I used to eagerly wait for good friends to tell me that, Vineet, I think your dieting is working. But I did not get those compliments. So at some point I was like, I think I'm going to lose confidence. Is this really working? Maybe I chose the wrong method. And I was sitting with this, a very, very vague thought. I was sitting in the evening darshan in Prashanti Nilayam, and Swami had come out for darshan. And that day, I think there was someone who was coming. I, I don't know exactly, but I think it was a sportsman or a politician, and I think Swami was in that in that mind frame where there was a lot of attention on the special guest who was coming. In that he was very busy, but he was talking. Those evenings, he used to talk often to Bhagya sir on the corner of the block, and the MBA students also very often. And I was just lost in my thought that my trousers look tight. I'm a little fat. I've been doubting. No one seems to be giving me any compliments, and I was feeling a little depressed actually. So suddenly, out of the blue, I hear Assam boy, and somebody said, "Hey, Swami's calling you. Swami's calling." So I got up and I went to Swami, and Swami said, "आजकल तुम डाइटिंग कर रहा है? क्या हुआ? इतना दुबला हो गया? You're losing weight. खाना नहीं खाता है अच्छे से. You should eat well." And then it was a very sweet, small interaction. And I think the special guest came and Swami went in. And it was like for anybody who was a onlooker or somebody who saw that, all they would have realized is that Swami called Vineet. And some very small interaction happened. And then Swami turned and he went off. And I came back and I was reflecting on it. For me, it was very powerful because I realized that who is your real friend? Because when no one else observed my dieting, through this small interaction, Swami left a message to me that listen, you may be doing something which is going on in your mind. I am observing you. Even when I have a very, very busy day, and there's maybe the president or some politician or some sportsman, somebody is coming, I still know that this boy is dieting, and he gave me that compliment, and it really touched my heart. And I remember that incident with a lot of sweetness in a way, and many such incidents. So I can, that the flurry of these incidents can go on and on. In fact, I just keep one photo on my desk. I can just pull it up so you can see there's this very small picture here. I keep it on my desk. What this reminds me of a very small incident which happened. So this was in Kodaikanal in 1998, and there were a lot of T-shirts which had come, which Swami was wanting to distribute. And then Swami said, for quite some time, Swami said, so what is medium size? And then someone said, Swami, medium is like that. I think Ruchi sir was explaining, and then he said large size, medium size. And Swami was discussing the sizes of the T-shirt. And then he said, oh, okay, he asked me to get up and he said, you change into the T-shirt and come, because I'm not sure if the medium size or the small size is really the small. Then he said, if this boy small size fits, then the small size is correct. So I went and I changed the T-shirt and I came. And in this picture, actually, Swami was looking at the collar of the T-shirt, that is that size really the right size. And he was trying to find out if, and then he really looked at the fitment and everything. And then I was like, yeah, then this is the right decision. And then he took the T-shirts for distribution. So, in small incidents, it used to show us that how much into details that he was, especially when it came to going and distributing something to the devotees, or sending something out. On every item he used to have a special eye, and through his um, ways, we all used to have special blessings and interactions. The couple and as I get into the flow of telling the stories, the couple of other things which really were very, very sweet for me. It was as if a mother bending down and trying to take care of a child always. And one of them was I used to have this issue with my health a bit. In fact, two incidents regarding health. One was in my second year or third year of PhD. I was diagnosed with a small kidney stone. And when that kidney stone diagnosis happened, I was in pain, and Dr. Bhatt was the head of urology in the super hospital in Parthi, and I was taken to the hospital, and he said, "Oh, he has a kidney stone," because they did a X-ray, and then uh, that night, that evening, Swami used to talk to Dr. Bhatt very often, and he told me that he's going to tell Swami that one of your PhD boys has a kidney stone. And I saw that Swami was speaking to Dr. Bhatt, and uh, and with all due respect to Dr. Bhatt, I think he clinically obviously told Swami that what is the situation with his boy. And next day I went to hospital. I met him, and I listened to him, and I realized that there is a treatment which is going to happen, and the treatment used to be called as lithotripsy, and that they break the stone with laser. Uh, and then Dr. Bhatt told me, see, this can be painful, because kidney stone pain is like sometimes bad, and it can be very, very painful, and especially when the stone breaks and all. And I got really scared. I was like, oh, because I don't think how much of tenacity I had to take pain, and I got really scared. And that evening I was sitting again in the mandir, very sad, and thinking, oh, I'm going to have this very, very painful procedure, and why did I get into this? And then I was thinking, maybe are there some ways which I could do? Can it disappear? Or should I drink a lot of water? And that evening, because Swami had spoke, I mean, Dr. Bhatt had told Swami already. That evening Swami came, and Swami came to me, and he said, and he started explaining about the how a stone is formed. He said, if you have lady's finger and this, and then calcium can be, he said few things. And then, just like a mother, uh, if you have a pain and you come home and you tell your mother that, uh, even if she knows that you have to go through the pain, she'll give you assurance. So he patted my cheeks and he said, "Utna pain nahi hoga. Don't worry. It will be fine." And he gave me the assurance that you will be okay. So just those words of Swami gave me so much of confidence that maybe I can go through this procedure and go through it. And the I think I pretty much had a very painless feeling as I went through it. Because like that memory, that the way Swami patted my cheeks and the way he said that "Jada pain nahi hoga" gave me so much of confidence to go through the procedure. And one more incident again on the health side, uh, there was and I'm also just keeping a watch on the. I think I probably have some time. Am I okay with time, Siddharth?
Yeah, you have more than half an hour, 30-35 minutes.
Okay. Oh, great. So, another incident which I'll, I think, probably get into a little bit more detail, and this is a little broader one. Again, on the health side. So this was, I think, the year 2002. There was a lot of anticipation that maybe Swami will go to Kodaikanal or he'll not go to Kodaikanal. So we were all waiting for in Brindavan, that if will he go to Kodaikanal, and we were doing our PhD. But in those days, I became very, very sick, in the sense that I got some, I think, typhoid or malaria, and every evening I used to have a lot of, fever. And I realized that I was becoming weak. So some days I could not even go to darshan, and there was this period where I was almost like skipping, not able to go to mandir, and I was not well at all. And then there was some news which came where Swami was not planning to go to Kodaikanal, but then one evening we heard that Swami is going to go for a trip to this uh, jungle resort. It's called Nagarhoil, and it's on Karnataka Kerala border. And many of the teachers and the PhD students and a few other people were invited to go to that, and I was one of them. And I think we were supposed to have a road trip to Nagarhoil, and it occurred to me that my health situation was such that it'll be very, very difficult for me to even embark on the trip. It's going to be tough, because I didn't even know whether I can barely sit in the car, or go with this. And yeah, by Swami's grace, I think all the special thing about the hostel and the students is that the bonding is such that they're people will probably come and understand. And many of the other PhD colleagues of mine, they said that I think you should not. We think you should not miss this. You should come. I was like, but how will I travel? What? Because I can barely stand and I'm very weak. They said, no, no, don't worry. We will support you. We will help you out. We'll be on both sides. And that night there was special treatment given to me. There was some ganji made in the hostel, and they gave me a lot of this lemons thing. And few of my brothers, they filled up bottles of lemon juice. So there was a lot of people who prepped me up that I should not miss this, because it was a day trip. But even if it's a day trip, it's such a unique opportunity to go with Bhagwan. And there was a lot of excitement in the entourage to look at the elephants there in Nagarhoil, and somebody had arranged like a government guest house. So with it was we were supposed to start very early in the morning, and everybody was ready. And because of the encouragement I got from everyone, irrespective of being in bad health, I was like, okay, I'm going to make it. I'll have to. I won't lose this opportunity. And then I think so there were multiple sumo cars, and I think they all followed Swami's car. At some point, it was, we reached the location at around 10 in the morning after a long drive. But by then, I was so exhausted and I was so tired. And I was like, okay, now I don't think I can even stand up. So I took some corner and I sat down. And when the lunch, at some point there was a lunch, I could not even stand up and go for lunch. So I kept hiding behind and being in the background, because I was looking not well and feeling not well, and I was feeling quite exhausted. So I was right in the behind, and a thought was going on in my mind at that point, that hope Swami does not observe that I'm so sick. It will look so odd. And for some reason that day, I just wanted to be behind, because I think I was not in the right main mind frame. Like, hope Swami doesn't see me because I'm looking so thin and so odd, and I'm looking so this. So I kept just not showing my face, actually. So being almost behind the pillars, behind the thing. Then after lunch, Swami sat in the hall, and he was having a conversation. He was talking to different people. I remember Bhagya sir was one of them. And at some point he said, where is that Assam boy? Uh, and then I got alerted, and in the behind, then he mentioned something like this. He's been sick for so many days. He does not want to show his face to Swami. And Swami knows what is going on. And then I got up and everybody asked me to come in front of Swami. And then what happened in the next few uh, minutes are probably the most powerful, cherished moments which probably I would have had. So Swami held my head and took his glass of water with which Swami was drinking water, and then he created vibhuti, like bountiful of vibhuti, which he poured in my mouth, and then he made me drink water from his glass. And as if everything around me came to some kind of a standstill. I felt that immense concentrated love flowing on me, and everything else, like whether it is health or uh, the worries, they all diffused. And as I drank that water from his glass and had that vibhuti, uh, some kind of a energy, almost a renewed energy, started coming up. And I mean, I had all tears in my eyes. If I remember correctly, he like kept patting me for a while, and gave me a lot of assurance that don't hide from Swami if you're not well. You should. And then he said a lot of loving words. And uh, then we all went for a tour in the jeep and bus, and I think there was some kind of a jungle safari. And the return trip, I felt as if I have got this huge booster shot of energy, and more than the fact that anything else, all all my brothers in the trip and all teachers, they said that, see, we told you, you should never miss such an opportunity. I think probably one of the most special cherished moments of my life, where I felt the power of our mother's eye almost so closely, helping me to overcome uh, not just the sickness of that day, but maybe, if I put it in the right way, the sickness and the drains of maybe many lives, or I don't know what. Like it all felt so much more calm and serene. Uh, it's as I connect the dots, right? So with incidents like this, there were so many special moments which get created, and cherishable moments which get in the mind. To close the dot on the fact that when I started my PhD, how I started, and as I was telling everyone, that it was a very unique situation, because I was not anticipating I should do it, but Bhagwan anticipated maybe my life and made me do that. At some point after I had finished my PhD, uh, I remember a situation where, again, I was like at a life stage where I was thinking, what do I do next, or where do I really go? And Bhagwan actually called me one day, and in fact, the situation was such that we were told that we are going to get a permanent letter for becoming a lecturer, and I realized that I'll seek Swami's guidance. And he called me, and when he called me that day, he said few things. It was very powerful. He gave me a lot of vibhuti packets, and then he said, "You did the PhD, but your father and your family were in trouble. Now it is time for you to go and work and take care of your family." And 4 5 years had gone by. He recollected the moments in that Brindavan days when he had asked me to do PhD, and then he asked me to now go and take care of the family, and now go and take care of life ahead, and with assurance. And so he kept saying, "Wherever you go, wherever you are, I will be with you." And there's a Telugu phrase which I think it means that above you, beyond you, along with you, I'll be with you all the time. With that assurance, he asked me to then go and start working in the outside world. But the journey with Swami, every moment spent with him, and the number of lessons and the number of experiences, sometimes tiny and sometimes deep, would you know uh, is after all everything which we have. So recently there was a interaction I was having, and somebody asked me, um, what is it which makes you all deal with situation in the corporate world in a unique way? I think what it is the foundation, the roots which we have in the institution which Bhagwan molded and created for us, and the way he created the character of every individual, and he continues to do it every day and night. And I think every that the character and that unique atmosphere, those things are today pretty much the foundation of everything which we do. So I think there's nothing which we can achieve, or even today, nothing which happens which probably is not a part of his bigger plan. uh, the it's a very different today. We recently moved to Amsterdam, and the Philips headquarter is in Amsterdam, and it's been a very recent move. So me and my family have been settling it here. Just 2 weeks back, something very unique happened, and I'm just narrating this to just show that as life goes on, the connections which Swami creates, or the Swami which is in our heart, it will always get a unique meaning and a reinforcement. So I'll narrate the small incident which just happened 2 weeks back, actually. So we were taking our kids for swimming class. In Netherlands, the swimming is very important because it's a country which can generally below seawater level. So every child has to know swimming, and we have twin boys. So we enrolled them for swimming class, and when we enrolled them for the swimming class, the swimming instructor told me and my wife that, oh, you need to make this payment. So go to this floor, and when you go to that floor, There is a lady, this is her name, and you have to interact with her and get them enlisted and make the payment. So it's fine. So I think we have recently moved here. We've been observing the culture here, the people here, and we went up to do this. And in the queue, as we were moving towards the lady, I told my wife, you know, this lady is dealing with everyone with a lot of kindness. Not no cultural reference as such, but generally the Dutch people are very direct. I think it's their way of interaction is. If you're in an environment, it's not that they will, anyone who comes to a counter, they'll be shouting like a lot of love or something. They're business minded, direct. So I was telling my wife, this lady seems to be dealing with everyone with so much of smile and kindness. And my wife is like, yeah. And then I think few people above in front of us, they move on, and then we go there, and then we try to get our kids' name registered, and she asks for the names, and she says, "Oh, you're from India." Then I say yes. Then she says, "Okay, Ganesha is my favorite god." And that was, I think, because it's recently Ganesh Chaturthi event. So I said, yeah, it's all our favorite god, because in fact, we just celebrated Ganesh Chaturthi, and you know, uh, we pray to Ganesha, and uh, and then the lady says, and she was pure Dutch and quite elderly lady. She said, just imagine this. He says, yes, and I have another favorite god, and so I was like all ears. And she's like, do you know Sai Baba? In a unique place, out of nowhere, in a unique situation, somebody who have, and there's no Sai Baba picture anywhere, there's nothing. And I was stunned. And I said, I studied in Puttaparthi for many, many years, and Sai Baba's college is where I studied. The moment I said that, the lady like removes her glasses. She sits like this, and she burst into tears. I was so stunned by this experience. And then I was like, and there are still some people behind us. And she burst into tears. And I was like, what is, I mean, I like, what, how do I react? And then she just said briefly that her husband passed away a few years back. He was a very close devotee, a believer of Swami, and she feels very connected to Sai Baba. And when she saw us and we said we came from India, she felt like asking that question. And because of the situation, I just said that next week when we get the kids again for swimming, I'll meet you and I'll get you vibhuti. And I left from there. And then next week when we went again, we took a vibhuti packet which we had from recent before we had come, and I gave it to her there. And then so the next week she says, thank you so much for the vibhuti, because I also had and people here are a lot of time on the bikes, like they're on the cycles, like I also had an accident, I really need this. So I was like, it's a, those connections remain always around us. I don't know how much we realize, but in and around us, there's a unique vibration wherever in the world. And, we carry Swami along, and we carry his message along. And I think it just keeps coming up. I digressed into this one, but, one kind of message which was going on in my mind is, I think it's difficult to pick up exactly which story and which experience to need together. But just to frame at least my humble experiences, I think it is this. There are certain things. I mean, I think the first big thing about my experience, I feel, is about everybody's experience, is that just having reached the door of Swami and having Swami in our life itself is the biggest experience. Because, if we want to too much analyze or too much diagnose, we don't know when in our life we will get the right messages. But to have Swami in our life itself is such a big experience. That's my fundamental biggest thought. But at least in my life, I've realized moments where he changed the track of my life. It changed the way I perceived things, the way I would have wanted to be. And he made me something which he really felt is a better product. I think he molded many steps, and to the extent of like there's a in many of the talks we realize some of our elders say that for to receive the grace of God, the vessel has to be empty and it has to be turned in a way that the grace can fall in. Not that I want to contradict that thought, but there are some situation where the God even like gets the vessel empty and turns it around. I think my life is probably, there are situations which I would not have anticipated, and he molded it in a way he felt that I can be of some worth and I can do something which is going to benefit. So I think he pretty much had to go down to help me become something, and at least be an instrument in his hand. Beyond that, I think the sweetness of the association with Swami, the uniqueness of every interaction with him, his motherly love, his friendly touch, his loving gaze. And when Swami used to come in front of someone and stand and speak, every sense of your body becomes at the highest alert, and you feel that joy run through you. Even today, as we think of him, that similar feeling always comes up. So his love, his grace, his unique attention is, I think, what really created a huge impact in my life. I think the last important thing is that he continues to give us those experiences, those connections, those interactions which are so meaningful, and he continues to be around us in a way which I think is pretty much shaping everything. So I think those are my few thoughts as I speak today. Uh, so with that, and I think with a lot of humility, I'd like to say that thank you, brothers from Bombay, especially Jai Shankar and Siddharth and Jaideep. Thanks for your nice introduction. I thought I'll share some personal experiences with this gathering, and I hope it was meaningful. But I'd like to submit this to Swami, and I'd like to say a huge thanks and gratitude to all of you. Sarah.
Thank you, Vineet. Sairam. It was so beautiful, as you rightly said, that Swami has built this institution, or she got us all in his loving umbrella, just showing us truly that end of education is character, and how he always took care of all of us, all devotees, all students, everybody lovingly. And as you said, like a loving mother, he always carried us in his arms. Probably we all never saw what's in store for us in future, but he always knew it and he always guided us. We didn't believe it, that what he's saying for us at that point in time, or at this point in time, is really applicable for us or not. But he always had in mind that this is the right thing for us to do. So as we are taking some questions on the chat panel, there is one question which has come up, which is like, you had such a good experiences or loving experiences, Swami, and Swami always carried you as his child and always showered upon you the motherly love. Can you just share your thoughts on saying, how should we surrender to such a loving God? How should we empty ourselves to receive his grace more and more? Because Swami always said, empty your vessel, then I can fill it with the grace. Pour your sorrows and worries at my lotus feet, and I will take care of rest of the things. So what are your thoughts on that, Vineet?
And to be very honest and candid, there's a lot which I learned during the journey than having a realization before the journey. So I would not claim a level of evolvement where I knew how to do things. But I think as experiences happen, I think uh, the the couple of things which really mattered the most is that I realized that if we are available to share and care and do service to others, I think it becomes so much more as if your mind is empty and the vessel is a little bit empty for the grace to come, right? So after my education, or after coming out of the portals, this question always kept just in an innocent way, this question always kept coming up in my mind. Now I'm no more in Swami's institution, so we don't have that level of access. But how do we keep the grace pouring onto us? At least the answer which I always got in my mind was that we just keep following his teaching. But more than that, as he said, that hands that help are holier than lips that pray. We go and do some work in whichever capacity we can. Uh, at some of the alumni, we would get together. We'll try to mentor the junior alumni. We started some programs. There are certain activities in your best capacity you keep doing. Now alumni do so many activities in different ways. Running charity, running kind of different uh, help groups in situations, etc. I would say that whenever those activities happen from our hands, I feel the grace is showering more. So I keep reminding myself that uh, keep him in your heart, keep his teaching in your mind, but keep your hands doing work. I think that's all I can share. Yeah.
So hands that serve are holier than lips that pray. That's a beautiful saying. That's how we used to say, and how truly you said that one of the best way to connect with Lord is to serve do as much seva as possible, because that is the only way we can sync with our Lord. There's one interesting question on the panel, and it's been like 20, 25 years you have stepped out of the institute. But there are so many of our brothers and so many people around the world who have just come into fold of Swami. Many have seen them, many have not seen them, but still all of us have the same faith in Swami, or have the same amount of devotion or equal amount of earnestness, whether you saw it or not saw it. So you were privileged to see him experience it on his own. But there will be a generation like your kids or our kids who have not yet seen, but they still need to have same amount of connect with Swami. How do they connect with Swami? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah.
To connect with that unseen form.
Absolutely. So I think it's as simple as this. All his teaching, his discourses, his words are available all around us. And I think we all, through our behavior, our service, are supposed to be, exemplifying his teachings, right? Now, my 7-year-old twins, I don't make them sleep any night till they have said the hostel prayer, which we used to always say, Karchana Kritamba. And I don't make, every morning when they wake up, I say that, okay, and they're very playful, they're very naughty, and they're jumping all around, and you can imagine the twin effect. So but at least in my own capacity, I feel that I need to bring to them the Swami we experienced. And through these sessions where devotees of Swami share their feelings, share their love, and make it a almost like a seamless flow of energy by just sharing all the beautiful experiences. And then imagine the amount of content today which is available. We are such a lucky generation. In fact, the future generation is so lucky, and especially with Radio Sai and the content of discourses and bhajans. There's like so much repository of knowledge and content and bhajans. And so if anybody wanted to just feel that presence, I'll share one more experience if you permit me. And this is again a very very small thing. So now in we just moved to Netherlands, and here you don't have house help, and you have to like pretty much do all your stuff. So my duty in the house is that I have to also clean all the vessels in the night and put them in the place where you have cleaning. So whenever I'm cleaning the vessels and I'm putting them in our cleaner, my son actually comes by and stands by, and he says, uh, Papa, uh, you know and whenever I do that, I put Swami's bhajan on my mobile phone and put it on the kitchen on the top. So when I'm doing this activity, I can keep listening to some bhajan. So one day my son comes by and he's nearby, and I'm looking at the bhajan, and he made some comments like, why are you listening to this? So I like, see, when I listen to Swami's bhajan and I do this action, I feel this action is becoming more meaningful. It is becoming much more powerful. I'm like, okay. And then I keep doing that. And I then suddenly look at that bhajan. And in that bhajan, and I think it is the bhajan Sri Ramacharnam, Swami is going and between students. And then I see myself there. So, so in that bhajan, that moment, that video was taken on a day and a time when Swami was going by, and I happened to be sitting there, and I see myself there. I'm like, oh, this is such a unique realization that I just happened to tell him the relevance of listening to bhajan when you're doing some action, and I look at the screen and I see myself in that video clip. So it was one of those, the shots of the Parthi Darshan of those days. So I think it's not the time, it's not the generation, or it's not that who is where. I think it's all about the sincerity of your feeling and what we want to pass on as legacy, as always. So I think, to in fact, long back uh, in one Korea trip, I think somebody had asked Swami that what. Oh no, I think Swami asked that what is my biggest miracle, and people were giving unique answers. But when Swami would ask such questions, you generally know that you can give some answers, but maybe the answer is yet to come. And to the best of what my memory serves, how the story went around is that people responded, and then finally, when Swami said what his most unique miracle was, I think it was the unique one-to-one connection he has with everyone across the world, across the country. I mean, somebody sitting in Zimbabwe or Namibia, or in Costa Rica, or in somewhere in South America. I think in our mind we may not be able to even comprehend that what unique connection they have built with Bhagwan. And we may be a little foolish to think that if somebody like physically got some attention is experience. Now obviously we narrate that, but there are the one-to-one unique connection Swami has with everyone, I think is his biggest miracle. Yeah.
So beautifully put. As you rightly said, Swami always said it's always a heart-to-heart connection.
Heart
It
to
is
heart,
never
absolutely.
that, yeah. And each one he has built his unique relation, and that's why they say divinity is ocean, and each one has drunk the one small drop of ocean and felt the God over things. So beautifully, rightly said. And I mean, we all of us stayed in the hostel. We moved out of the hostel, and we all usually as devotees went to Puttaparthi, and we came back recharged, and that always remained with us. And he had always, so that's rightly put, that he has a one-to-one heart-to-heart connection. Few of them could be physically when you're just sitting and praying for him, or it could be something like what you just experienced a couple of weeks ago, wherein from nowhere he showed that his presence is there, and he's always with you. So with that beautiful explanation and beautiful evening stories that you have taken us through, we should call the end of this Samarpan session. I would request Brother Jaishankar to lead us to the prayers.
समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। जय बोलो भगवान श्री सत्य साई बाबा जी की जय। थैंक यू साईराम।